If you want greatness, understand this immediately. You will spend more time alone than you ever imagined. Not because you hate people, not because you're antisocial, but because focus requires separation, and separation feels lonely to those who have never chased anything meaningful. Everyone wants to be exceptional, but nobody wants the silence that comes with becoming exceptional. Isolation is where the real work happens. It's where excuses die because there's nobody to impress, nobody to blame, nobody to distract you from the truth. When you're alone, your habits are exposed, your discipline is tested, your weaknesses have nowhere to hide. That's why most people avoid isolation. They fill every empty moment with noise, conversation, scrolling, entertainment, because silence forces accountability. Look closely at anyone who has achieved something rare. Their journey includes long stretches where nobody believed in them, supported them, or even noticed them. While others were socializing, they were building. While others were relaxing, they were refining. While others were chasing approval, they were chasing progress. Isolation is not punishment. It's preparation. The crowd doesn't build greatness. The crowd consumes it later. At the beginning, the crowd will only slow you down. Opinions multiply when focus weakens. Advice increases when discipline disappears. Isolation removes all of that. It simplifies your life. You wake up, you work, you improve, you repeat. No applause, no validation. Just progress stacking quietly. Most people fear isolation because they confuse being alone with being abandoned. But the truth is, isolation is chosen by those who want more. You are not being left behind. You are stepping ahead. And when you step ahead, the distance between you and everyone else grows. That distance feels uncomfortable at first. You'll question whether you're doing the right thing. You'll wonder if you're missing out. You'll feel misunderstood. That's the price greatness demands, that you become comfortable being misunderstood. When you isolate yourself to work on your goals, people will label you obsessed, arrogant, distant, or extreme. They will say you've changed. They are right, you have. And that change is exactly what scares them, because it forces them to look at what they are not willing to do. Isolation also tests your commitment. When nobody is watching, when nobody is praising you, when progress is slow and invisible, that's when you find out whether your desire is real or just something you like talking about. Anyone can perform when there's attention. Very few can perform consistently in silence. In isolation, motivation fades quickly. Discipline takes over. You stop relying on how you feel and start relying on who you decided to be. You train when it's boring. You work when it's repetitive. You study when it's exhausting. You don't post about it. You don't announce it. You just do it. That's how skill compounds. That's how power is built. People who avoid isolation stay average because average is social. Average loves company. Average needs reassurance. Average needs someone else to move first. Greatness moves alone at the start. It leads before it's followed. And when results finally appear, suddenly everyone claims they believed in you from the beginning. Isolation sharpens your mind. Without constant input, you think clearly. You make better decisions. You hear your own thoughts instead of borrowed opinions. You stop chasing trends and start building foundations. You stop reacting and start executing. This mental clarity is rare, and that rarity is what creates advantage. There will be moments when isolation feels heavy. Nights where you question whether the sacrifice is worth it. Days where progress feels slow. Weeks where nobody checks in on you. That's not a sign to stop. That's the process working. Strength is built under pressure. Focus is built under silence. If you cannot endure being alone with your goals, you are not ready for greatness. Because greatness amplifies everything. It amplifies responsibility. It amplifies pressure. It amplifies expectations. If isolation already breaks you, visibility will destroy you. Isolation is not forever, but it is necessary. It is the phase where you build the version of yourself that can later handle success without collapsing. It is where discipline becomes automatic, standards become non-negotiable, and excuses lose their power. Greatness demands isolation, not because it wants to take something from you, but because it needs to give you something first. Thyself, respect, capability, and unshakable confidence that comes from knowing you built yourself when nobody was watching, and you kept going when silence was the loudest voice in the room, and then the only thing pushing you forward was the promise you made to yourself and refused to break. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. They come and go depending on sleep, mood, weather, and validation. Discipline is different. Discipline does not care how you feel. It does not negotiate. It does not wait for the perfect moment. Discipline moves when it is uncomfortable, boring, repetitive, and inconvenient. And that is exactly why discipline builds greatness, while motivation builds nothing but temporary excitement. Most people are addicted to motivation. They wait to feel inspired before they act. They wait for energy before they train. They wait for confidence before they start. And while they are waiting, time keeps moving. Opportunities expire. Potential rots. Discipline understands something: motivation never will. Action creates momentum, not the other way around. If you rely on motivation, your progress will always be inconsistent. You will start strong and fade fast. You will show up when it feels good and disappear when it gets hard. Discipline shows up regardless. Discipline works in silence. Discipline performs even when you would rather quit. That consistency is what separates people who talk about success from people who actually build it. Greatness requires repetition. Repetition is boring. Nobody tells you that when they sell you inspiration. The truth is that the habits that change your life are rarely exciting. Training feels the same after a while. Work feels repetitive. Improvement feels slow. Discipline is what keeps you executing when novelty disappears and reality sets in. Discipline is a decision you make once and enforce daily. You decide that certain actions are no longer optional. You don't wake up asking whether you feel like doing the work. You wake up knowing the work is happening. That certainty removes friction. It eliminates internal debate. And every time you execute without hesitation, you strengthen your identity. Motivation asks, "Do I feel like it?" Discipline asks, "What needs to be done?" That question alone changes everything. It shifts responsibility back to you. It removes excuses. It forces ownership. People who live disciplined lives stop blaming circumstances because discipline adapts to circumstances instead of surrendering to them. Discipline is also protection. It protects you from your weaker moments. It protects you from emotional decisions. It protects you from procrastination disguised as self-care. When your mind tries to justify shortcuts, discipline overrides it. When distractions appear, discipline keeps you on task. When doubt creeps in, discipline keeps you moving forward. Most people misunderstand discipline as restriction. They think it limits freedom. The truth is the opposite. Discipline creates freedom. Financial discipline creates options. Physical discipline creates energy and confidence. Mental discipline creates clarity. Emotional discipline creates stability. The more disciplined you are, the less controlled you are by external forces. Motivation feels good but produces nothing on its own. Discipline feels hard but produces results. And results are what fuel real confidence, not affirmations, not hype. Confidence comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. From knowing that when you say you'll do something, it gets done regardless of mood or circumstance. The world does not reward intention. It rewards execution, and execution belongs to disciplined people. Talent without discipline is wasted. Intelligence without discipline is useless. Ambition without discipline becomes frustration. Discipline is the multiplier that turns effort into outcome. You will not feel motivated every day. That is guaranteed. There will be days when quitting feels logical. Days when slowing down feels justified. Days when excuses sound reasonable. Discipline is what separates the people who cave on those days from the people who compound progress while everyone else stalls. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who can be trusted. That belief is powerful. It changes how you carry yourself. It changes how others perceive you. It changes the level of standards you tolerate from yourself and from life. Greatness is not built on emotional highs. It is built on boring consistency, on doing the same hard things again and again without applause, on showing up when results are invisible, on staying locked in when motivation has left the room. Completely disciplined does not ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be consistent. And consistency beats intensity every single time. When motivation fades, discipline remains. When excitement disappears, discipline continues. And when discipline becomes who you are, success stops being a question and starts becoming inevitable. Because the person who is disciplined every day does not need to hope for results. They create them through action that does not depend on how they feel, but on the standard they refuse to lower, even when nobody is watching and every excuse feels tempting and quitting would be easier, but staying disciplined is who they decided to be. Pain is not a possibility on the road to greatness. It is a requirement. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling comfort, not truth. The moment you decide you want more than average, pain signs the contract with you. Physical pain, mental strain, emotional pressure, social friction. There is no version of greatness that feels good while is being built. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid pain, and in doing so, they avoid growth. They design their days around ease. They choose convenience over challenge. They choose short-term relief over long-term progress. And then they wonder why nothing changes. Pain is the signal that change is happening. Without it, you are standing still. Pain shows up the moment you raise your standards. When you decide to wake up earlier, your body resists. When you decide to train harder, your muscles scream. When you decide to focus, your mind looks for escape. When you decide to say no to distractions, loneliness creeps in. That discomfort is not random. It is the old version of you fighting for survival. There are two types of pain in life, and you will experience one of them no matter what. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. One hurts now and strengthens you. The other feels harmless now and destroys you slowly. The pain of discipline is sharp but temporary. The pain of regret is dull but permanent. The difference is choice. High performers do not have a higher pain tolerance because they were born different. They simply understand pain differently. They don't see it as a warning sign. They see it as confirmation. When it hurts, they know they are stretching beyond who they used to be. When it's uncomfortable, they know they are breaking patterns that kept them small. Pain exposes truth. When things get hard, masks fall off. Fake motivation disappears. Weak goals collapse. Pain reveals how serious you really are. Anyone can talk about success when things are easy. Very few continue when pain demands consistency. Without immediate reward, pain also builds respect. Not from others, but from yourself. Every time you endure discomfort without quitting, you deposit proof into your identity. Proof that you are capable. Proof that you are resilient. Proof that you can be trusted with bigger responsibilities. That self-respect becomes confidence, and confidence cannot be faked or borrowed. Most people numb pain instead of learning from it. They scroll, they eat, they distract, they complain, they escape. And every time they do, pain returns stronger because the lesson was ignored. Pain does not leave until it teaches you what you need to learn. Discipline, focus, patience, humility, consistency. Pain is the cost of upgrading your life. You cannot install a new operating system without deleting the old one. Old habits resist removal. Old identities fight extinction. Pain is the friction of that transition. If it didn't hurt, it wouldn't be transformation. It would be decoration. The mistake people make is thinking pain means something is wrong. In reality, pain often means something is finally right. It means you stopped lying to yourself. It means you stopped avoiding effort. It means you stepped into responsibility. Comfort never builds anything worth having. Comfort maintains what already exists. Pain also filters people. When your standards rise, some people disappear. When your focus sharpens, some relationships weaken. When your discipline increases, some conversations end. That loss hurts, but it also creates space. Space for growth, space for clarity, space for people and opportunities that align with who you are becoming. You don't need to chase pain recklessly, but you must stop running from it. Seek meaningful discomfort. Choose challenges that build strength. Choose routines that demand effort. Choose goals that scare you a little. Pain chosen consciously becomes power. Pain avoided becomes weakness. Every strong person you admire has a history of pain they didn't quit on. Every life that looks effortless now was built through seasons that were anything but. You are not behind. You are just being asked to pay the same price they paid. Pain does not care about your excuses. It does not negotiate with your feelings. It shows up every time you step beyond comfort and ask a simple question: are you willing to continue? Your answer to that question determines whether pain becomes the forge that builds you or the barrier that stops you. The moment you accept that pain is non-negotiable, you stop being surprised by difficulty. You stop taking hardship personally. You stop asking why it's hard and start asking how much stronger this will make you. That mindset changes everything. Pain stops being an enemy and becomes a guide, pointing you toward the exact work you need to do to become the version of yourself that no longer collapses under pressure, no longer hides behind excuses, and no longer settles for a life that feels safe but empty. The moment you decide to pursue greatness, you sign up for misunderstanding. Not later, immediately. People will not wait for results before forming opinions. They will judge the change before they understand the reason. And most of that judgment will not be neutral. It will be hostile. Because when you raise your standards, you silently expose everyone who refuses to raise theirs. Hate does not come from your failure. It comes from your refusal to stay average. When you stop wasting time, people who still do feel judged. When you stop making excuses, people who rely on them feel uncomfortable. When you choose discipline over comfort, people who chose comfort feel threatened. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it, and that feeling turns into resistance. You must understand this early, or it will break you. Greatness is not approved by committee. You will not get unanimous support. In fact, the more serious you become, the less support you will receive from people who once felt close. They liked you when you were relatable. They struggle with you when you are relentless. Misunderstanding is the tax for clarity. When you become clear about who you are and what you want, people who live in confusion feel exposed. They will say you've changed, you've become cold, you think you're better than them. The truth is simpler. You stop lowering yourself to make others comfortable. Hate often disguises itself as concern. People will question your choices under the mask of care. They will ask if you're doing too much, if you're obsessed, if you're taking life too seriously. What they are really asking is why you're willing to do what they are not. It's easier to criticize your ambition than to confront their own lack of commitment. If you need external approval, greatness will never be yours. Approval chains you to public opinion. It makes you hesitate when you should act. It makes you soften standards to avoid conflict. Greatness requires a spine strong enough to stand alone while being misunderstood. Every step forward widens the gap between you and those who stayed the same. That gap creates discomfort. Instead of crossing it, many people throw stones across it. They mock, they doubt, they minimize your effort. They predict your failure. Not because they know your limits, but because they are afraid of theirs. Hate is also proof of impact. Nobody hates someone who is irrelevant. Nobody resents someone who doesn't challenge the status quo. Hate means you are visible. It means you are moving. It means you are no longer blending in. And while it feels personal, it is rarely about you. The mistake people make is trying to explain themselves. They overtalk. They defend. They seek understanding from people who benefit from misunderstanding them. Explanations waste energy. Results speak in a language that needs no translation. Let your consistency answer questions. You don't owe anyone an answer. To being misunderstood teaches you emotional control. It forces you to detach from opinions that don't build you. It teaches you to operate without applause. That skill is essential because the higher you go, the louder the noise becomes. If criticism shakes you early, success will overwhelm you later. There will be moments when the isolation caused by misunderstanding feels heavier than the work itself. Moments when you question whether it's worth it. Moments when the silence from people you expected support from hurts more than open criticism. That pain is real, but it is also temporary. Those who stay will be few, but they will be solid. Greatness filters relationships the same way it filters habits. It removes what cannot keep up. That is not loss. That is alignment. You don't need a crowd that doubts you. You need a path that demands you stop expecting validation from people who don't share your vision. Stop explaining goals to people who don't respect discipline. Stop shrinking to avoid being misunderstood. The world does not reward clarity with comfort. It rewards it with results. You are not here to be liked. You are here to become capable. You are here to build something real. If misunderstanding and hate are the price, pay it without complaint. Every great life carries the weight of criticism at the beginning and respect at the end. And the only way to reach the end is to keep moving forward while the noise gets louder and your resolve gets stronger and you learn to trust your standards more than opinions and your actions more than approval. Comfort feels harmless. It feels earned. It feels like balance. But comfort is the most dangerous place you can live if you want greatness. Comfort slowly weakens you while convincing you that you're doing fine. It tells you that tomorrow is a better day to push harder, that you deserve rest before you deserve results, that consistency can wait because you've already done enough. Comfort does not destroy you loudly. It erodes you quietly. Power is built under pressure, not ease. Every powerful version of yourself is forged in moments where comfort was available but rejected. Comfort says sleep in. Power says get up. Comfort says relax. Power says execute. Comfort says you've done enough. Power says you're capable of more. And every time you choose comfort over effort, you reinforce a weaker identity. Most people think comfort is the reward for hard work. That lie keeps them trapped. Comfort is not the reward. Freedom is the reward. Capability is the reward. Control over your time, your body, your finances, your mind, that is the reward. And those things are earned through consistent discomfort. Not indulgence. Comfort makes you soft in ways you don't notice at first. You stop pushing limits. You stop setting aggressive goals. You stop demanding excellence from yourself. You start negotiating standards. You start accepting delays. You start calling laziness self-care. And before you realize it, you are maintaining instead of progressing. Greatness requires tension. Tension between where you are and where you want to be. Comfort releases that tension prematurely. It convinces you that staying the same is acceptable. But staying the same is never neutral. If you are not actively improving, you are falling behind. The world does not pause while you get comfortable. Comfort also kills urgency. Urgency is what sharpens focus. It forces execution. It eliminates nonsense. Comfortable people always feel like they have time. Powerful people act like time is running out, because it is. Every day that passes without progress is a day you don't get back. Look at your habits. The ones that feel good in the moment but cost you later. The extra sleep, the skipped workout, the delayed work, the unnecessary distractions. Comfort always collects interest. What feels small today compounds into mediocrity tomorrow. Power comes from doing what others won't do consistently, from choosing effort when ease is available, from pushing when quitting feels justified. Comfort never builds confidence. Only effort does. Only sacrifice does. Only doing hard things repeatedly does. Most people chase comfort because they are afraid of failure. They stay in familiar routines because at least those routines don't expose weakness. But comfort doesn't protect you from failure. It guarantees it just slowly enough that you don't notice until it's too late. Discomfort expands capacity. Every time you operate under pressure, you adapt. You become stronger, sharper, faster, more resilient. Comfort shrinks capacity. It narrows tolerance. It makes small challenges feel overwhelming. That's why comfortable people panic under pressure, while disciplined people stay calm. If you want power, you must intentionally design discomfort into your life. Hard training, focused work, high standards, honest self-evaluation, no excuses, no emotional bargaining. Not because you hate comfort, but because you respect your potential too much to waste it. Comfort is seductive because it feels like peace, but peace without progress becomes emptiness. Power, on the other hand, creates real peace. The peace of knowing you can handle pressure. The peace of knowing you can rely on yourself. The peace of knowing you earned everything you have. The uncomfortable path always looks harder from the outside, but it becomes easier internally because your strength increases. The comfortable path always looks easy at first, but it becomes unbearable later because your weakness increases. You don't need to eliminate comfort completely. You need to stop letting it lead. Comfort should be a byproduct, not a priority. A pause after execution, not a replacement for. When comfort becomes the goal, power disappears. Every day you face a choice that seems small but decides everything. Ease or effort, delay or discipline, comfort or growth. And the accumulation of those choices becomes your life. Power is not given to people who wait until discomfort disappears. Power is claimed by people who move forward despite discomfort, who treat challenge as normal, who understand that comfort is a luxury earned through years of pressure and sacrifice, and that the moment you choose comfort over growth, you hand your future to weakness and call it balance, while your potential waits patiently for you to stop betraying it. Greatness does not come from repeated thinking. It comes from a single, irreversible decision. A decision so clear and uncompromising that hesitation no longer has room to exist. Most people never make this decision. They live in a constant state of maybe. Maybe I'll start tomorrow. Maybe when things calm down. Maybe when I feel ready. And that endless maybe is what locks them into an ordinary life. Deciding once means removing the option to quit. It means you stop treating your goals like experiments and start treating them like obligations. Ordinary people decide daily. Great people decide once. Ordinary people wake up asking how they feel. Great people wake up knowing what must be done. When you decide once, something powerful happens. Mental noise disappears. The internal debates stop. You no longer waste energy convincing yourself to act because the action is already decided. That clarity creates speed. And speed compounds into dominance. Most people think they lack motivation when in reality they lack commitment. Motivation fluctuates. Commitment anchors. Commitment turns discipline into identity. When you decide once, you no longer rely on inspiration. You rely on structure. You rely on standards. You rely on execution. The reason people stay ordinary is not lack of ability. It's lack of finality. They leave the door open for excuses. They keep an exit strategy. They want success, but they also want comfort, approval, and safety. You cannot have all of those. The moment you decide once, you accept that some things must be sacrificed permanently. Deciding once means accepting consequences upfront. You accept that people may leave. You accept that life will feel heavier at times. You accept that pressure will increase. But you also accept something far more valuable: control. Control over your actions. Control over your future. Control over the version of yourself you are becoming. Ordinary lives are built on flexibility. Flexible standards, flexible discipline, flexible effort. Great lives are built on non-negotiables, non-negotiable routines, non-negotiable work ethic, non-negotiable self-respect. The decision separates the two. When you don't decide once, every obstacle becomes a reason to stop. When you do decide once, obstacles become part of the process. Resistance no longer surprises you. Difficulty no longer discourages you. It becomes expected, normal. Necessary. Deciding once also changes how you see time. You stop wasting it. You stop killing it. You start using it. Every hour has purpose. Every day has structure. You stop drifting because drifting is no longer compatible with who you decided to be. People who never decide once live in cycles. Start strong, lose focus, start again, lose momentum, repeat. That cycle feels busy but produces nothing. Deciding once breaks the cycle. It replaces chaos with direction. It replaces effort with momentum. You don't need to know every step. You don't need to feel confident. You don't need permission. You need commitment. Clarity comes after movement, not before it. Strength is built in execution, not contemplation. The fear of deciding once is the fear of accountability. Once you decide, you can no longer blame circumstances. You can no longer hide behind potential. You either execute or you face the truth. That level of honesty scares people who are comfortable with excuses, but that honesty is also what frees you. Because once you decide once, life becomes simpler. Hard, but simple. You know what matters, you know what doesn't. You stop wasting emotional energy on distractions that don't serve your future. Greatness demands finality, a point of no return, a moment where you stop testing yourself and start trusting yourself. That moment is not loud. It doesn't come with applause. It comes quietly, internally. When you decide that ordinary is no longer acceptable, that excuses no longer work, that comfort is no longer your priority, that your standards are non-negotiable and your commitment is permanent. And from that moment forward, you stop asking whether this path is hard and start asking whether it is worthy. Because the moment you decide once is the moment your life stops drifting and starts moving in a direction that only disciplined action can sustain. This entire speech leads to one unavoidable truth. Greatness is never denied, it is only unpaid for. The distance between who you are and who you want to become is not luck, talent, or timing. It is price. And every day, whether you realize it or not, you are choosing how to pay. You either pay with discipline, discomfort, isolation, and pressure now, or you pay later with regret, frustration, and the quiet pain of unrealized potential. Greatness does not respond to wishes. It responds to standards. It responds to decisions made when no one is watching. It responds to consistency when motivation is gone. It responds to those who accept pain without complaint and responsibility without excuses. You have seen the truth clearly. Isolation is required. Discipline is non-negotiable. Pain is unavoidable. Misunderstanding is guaranteed. Comfort must be resisted, and the decision must be final. There is no shortcut through these realities. There is no version of greatness that skips them. Most people will walk away inspired and unchanged. They will agree with everything they heard and still choose what is easy. They will return to comfort, to distraction, to waiting for the right moment. And time will move on without them. But this message was not meant for everyone. It was meant for the person who is tired of lying to themselves, the person who is done negotiating with weakness, the person who understands that average is not safe. It is slow failure. The price of greatness is high, but the cost of staying ordinary is higher. One builds strength, pride, and freedom. The other builds excuses and regret. You don't get to avoid paying, you only get to choose how, and when this is your moment to decide, not emotionally, not temporarily, but permanently, to accept the cost without resentment, to commit without conditions, to move forward without needing permission or applause, because when the years pass and life asks what you did with your potential, there will be no speeches, no motivation, no explanations left. Only results will speak for you, and the only question that will matter is whether you had the courage to pay the price when it mattered most.